Mr. Adetokunbo Kayode, the president of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry and former minister in the cabinet. In a previous cabinet administration, I must clear that from our Abuja studios. We'll continue this conversation around the CFT day. CFT, my apologies for cutting you off earlier that we needed to take that break very quickly. Let's return to what you were about finishing up because I have one question to pick up on that, please.
Yes, I was going to talk about the labor aspect of this conversation and the point raised by the labor community that they were not carried along. And I agree. In all aspects of policy, every sector, every stakeholder must be carried along, and their views must be taken and factored into decision. But a decision must always be made. That is one. Two, now if you look at our economy, which is again the structure of the African economy, it is principally informal. Today, the contribution to our GDP, informal part of it contributes about 80% to our GDP. And you know that even the labor sector has not been able to work with the informal sector. They unfortunately have been able to limit themselves only to the formal sector. These are part of the economic reforms that must go on as we move forward to even spread the impact on this. So the views of labor is important, must be taken into consideration. The views of the manufacturing sector, the man must be taken into consideration. But then, what is the contribution of manufacturing to GDP today? What are the constraints? Infrastructure, power, and the regulatory framework. All these are things that whether we join CFTA or we do not, we must do. We must do our power. It's not acceptable that we still continue to talk about 3.5 active and about 5.2 benign power megawatts. We're still talking about serious infrastructure deficit, and we're still battling with the ease of doing business. All these are things that we must do, whether or not we sign the CFTA. So it should not be a basis for not signing the CFTA. Actually, to be one of the grounds, I believe, to enable us join the CFTA. So I look at the best practices and say how we can leverage on the new opportunities that this will create so to compete in Africa.
Mr. Adetokunbo, if we're not signing, so that is a fait accompli as said today, and of course all other about 50 plus other African heads of state and governments will be taking that family picture, and our own president will be missing very significantly in that. This is a very important meeting, and not just because of the CFTA, but this is a meeting of African heads of state. So why would we not go there just because we don't want to sign? We have a former president, Obasanjo, right there, and I'm sure he's going to be in that family picture. He's a Pan-African trade person over the decades, as it were. So we have the right to be there. We should be there. That's my personal opinion here. But again, as you rightly put it, we can't postpone the bad day, and I don't want to use the word evil day, but of course, whether we sign or not, we're not having a stable electricity. We're just building the rails. We're just looking for money to build the rails. We haven't built the hospitals. We haven't built those critical infrastructure. We're not spending massively yet into medium and small enterprises. So, do you think other African countries have similar problems to Nigeria, but they're stepping ahead to say, look, let us sign, we'll deal with it, we'll see it as a call to duty?
Well, absolutely. I travel a lot in the West Coast, especially ECOWAS. And first of all, Nigeria is like UK to the average West African country. Even the average African country, we are Europe to them. We are higher, far above them in infrastructure, in a lot of things, with the exception of South Africa. Now, they are going to sign. We are nowhere to be found. And because we feel that, oh, people will use us as a dumping ground, or we will not be able to develop our infrastructure. On the other, on the flip side is that we are able to use the opportunity created by the continental business opportunities into African trade, leveraging on skills that we should develop in any case, whether or not there is a CFTA agreement, to improve the opportunities for our own people. It would improve the product. I just gave the example of Dangote, for instance, the sugar. The same thing with cement. In Gambia, there is no cement factory, but they buy Dangote cement and rebag it there. So you have a Dangote establishment there. This is Nigeria leading, showing what it's made of, showing just actually replicating, representing the strength of our people. Nigerians are strong, not only because we say we are strong, but people accept that we're strong. We must show leadership. We must do this. So there are countries that are not as good as us there signing. It's a shame we are missing the family picture, as I said. But we will do that because I believe that whatever happens, we must sign. Then we'll come back home and see how we can leverage on the opportunities. They need to strengthen our commitment to infrastructure development, skills development. For instance, in 2008, we put in the National Employment Policy. It was inaugurated when I was Minister of Labour. There is a skills development policy embedded in it. Up to this point, that has not been done. Take up the skills development policy, hit it hard. We need to have skills. Even if you develop your infrastructure and you don't have about 45% of your annual graduates, which is about 600,000 every year, plus another 100,000 coming from abroad, are unemployed. You are in serious trouble. The question is, why are they not employed? Because they are not properly skilled. It's part of their certificate. So we need to add skills to those certificates. And the roadmap is there. The roadmap is there. And the interesting thing is that actually government is thinking along that line. The only thing is, because I hear good music from the vice president, they're thinking along that line. But it's just to be able to put it together. And putting it together means that we must talk more, we must push, we must provide leadership more, not only talking, provide leadership. This is what we want to achieve in the next 2 years, and we'll go ahead and do it. You know that in Nigeria, if you have a committee of 10 to discuss a point, each of those 10 people will have a different view of that point. We will have a different roadmap to achieve that point. Then we find it difficult to build consensus, and government must really lead the way to enable us to build consensus as quickly as possible.
As a former minister of labor, I'm sure you've heard about this continental free trade area where you were within the corridors of power in administration. So what were the thoughts and the plans back then about this before we got to this day of this, and I'm going to repeat it, the family photo that was going to be hanging somewhere, and we are not there?
Well, I think the CFT idea started in 2012.